Well, hello once again, all my YouTube browsers and any subscribers who have tuned in, and thanks to you all for returning to Classic Dirtbike TV. Now, I'm doing my very best here to bring you material to showcase here on my YouTube channel, although the Scottish Government has now just announced that they're extending the current lockdown until the end of February, which will mean that's almost a full year since I've been able to get out and about and film any brand new bikes for my YouTube channel, but hopefully things will improve in the coming months. But until then, of course, we still have plenty material to share with you here on YouTube. So coming up in this next video, we are going to go back to 2018 to the charity scramble at Northern Ireland in Bangor, to be a wee bit more precise. And we have selected a few races from their charity scramble event that was held in that year. So I hope you enjoy these few races. So anyhow, enough from me. Let's just jump straight into race one. Yes, it's quite a nice day for classic racing here at Craigantlet in Northern Ireland, and as the riders make their way up the hill, this is the start of the pre-77 class race. Now it looks like James Thompson is your race leader. Second is Trevor Calderwood. Craig McCoo going through there on the yellow Greaves Griffin. What another nice selection of riders for this pre-1977 class race. So it is James Thompson, your race leader, number 26 on the Bultaco. Second is Trevor Calderwood. It's actually a bit harder to pick the numbers out at this point because we had a really horrendous shower on this track just previous to this race, so it's kind of muddied things up a bit, but nevertheless we'll try and pick out a few of the riders. Looks like we've got a follower ready on that turn, but it's still James Thompson who is your race leader from Trevor Calderwood in second position as the riders make their way down that very tricky step. This little step caught out a few of the riders when that really heavy rain shower came down, but looks like most people have negotiated it okay. Now here's your race leader again, number 26, James Thompson. Now over the course of the 2 days, James Thompson rode 5 different machines at this event in 5 different classes, and he almost had a clean sweep of wins in every race. So I think James is one of those guys that if you had a washing machine that had wheels in it and handlebars, then James would probably do quite well on that as well. But as you can see, the riders slipping and sliding their way across this adverse camber after that very heavy rain shower. And number 100 there, that's Ian Robertson on that TT 500 Yamaha 4-stroke machine. Gary Smith going through there, number 115 on the AMD CZ. Looks like we've got a follower there. I think that's Eddie Murray on his Suzuki. That's taking a little spill, but he seems to be okay. Yeah, it certainly looks like Eddie Murray. So we're just looking for our race leader as he heads up the hill. It's still number 26. It's the flying James Thompson. This guy is almost a motocross machine. Now James actually rode a YZ490 in the grade A twin shock class. He's riding this Bultaco in the pre-1977 class, and in some of the other classes he also rode a 360 CZ, a 250 Kawasaki, and of course he rides a Rickman Jap in the vintage class. So he's quite a talented young rider, this James Thompson. As you can see, it's still pretty tricky for most of the riders here. Number 4 going through there, I think that's Ian Buchanan. Number 12 is Adrian Lappin on his CZ machine. Adrian, of course, also rides one of those Jap Rickmans for Cecil Pearson. Number 24 there, that's Derek Faulds from Scotland on the Bultaco 360. One of the other very talented riders from my part of the country, but you can see the track conditions are quite slippy, but most riders seem to be negotiating the track fairly well. So it's still James Thompson on the Bultaco. That's your race leader. Looks like James has got quite a decent lead over second place man. I think it was Trevor Calderwood who took the early second place. Yes, there he is, number 32 there, Trevor Calderwood. Trevor, of course, won the Don Matthews CZ World Championship in 2016 in California. So it's a nice little bit of silverware for Trevor to put in his trophy cabinet, but here he is racing locally at his track in Northern Ireland. So that's Trevor Calderwood at number 32. We're looking at Ian Robertson now on the TT500 at Yamaha. Sadly, we lost Ian to a very tragic accident in 2019, but here he is taking part in this charity scramble event here in Northern Ireland. So it was a win for James Thompson with Trevor Calderwood in second position. Okay, next up it's the second race, and to be truthful, I'm not really entirely sure what actual class this is, because there's quite a combination of bikes in this class. That bike just facing us there, the Gold Greaves Griffin, I think that's one of the McCoo riders on that. It could be Craig McCoo, or it could be Craig's son that's riding that particular bike in this race. Harry Stitz in there in the middle on the BSA. Adrian Lappin is there on his old 1980 TM 250. So there's quite a collection and different makes and models of bikes in this particular class, but an uphill start of course at this Craigantlet racetrack, and it makes it very interesting for the riders when they leave the line. So it looks like we're just about good to go. We're just waiting on the OK from the track marshal. We'll get the thumbs up just shortly, but these riders getting ready to go. So it looks like we're good to go now, so just waiting on the gate to drop, and as they head up the hill, it's quite a good start there by Harry Stitt, number 111 on that BSA. So as the riders make their way up the hill, we'll pick them up once again as they head down. So as the riders come towards us, coming down the hill, it looks like that could be Lee Rook that's leading this race, number 20 there. It looks like Lee is riding a CZ machine, or CZ if you're watching this in the USA. Very popular bikes, these CZ bikes, for this type of classic and vintage racing. It looks like Harry Stitt is in second position on that BSA bike. Harry there, number 111, just coming into shot. It looks like Harry's lining up a pass for that pole position. And coming through in third place there, that looks like Wesley Stockdale in third. Adrian Lappin is in fourth position on that very rare Italian TM machine. And as you can see, the track is still quite slippy at this stage, because as I mentioned, the shower that we had just previous to this couple of races was absolutely horrendous, so it certainly dampened down the dust at this Craigantlet racetrack. And just coming into shot there, that's Gary Canning on his quite nice 1979 KX 250 Kawasaki. So here's your race leader. It's local man Harry Stitt, the famous bike builder. If Harry builds some fantastic classic frames, and some of his work has been featured in VMX magazine. A very talented young engineer and young rider, this Harry Stitt. But here he is riding his old BSA. Harry, of course, also rides one of the Rickman Japs for Cecil Pearson. Number 264 in second position there on what looks like an old Bultaco machine painted in white, as the rest of the riders make their way round this quite sticky racetrack. Mr. McCoo just going through there on that Greaves Griffin, another one of those bikes that you very seldom see at vintage race events these days, but he's doing well on that old British made Greaves machine. But another nice old BSA Victor there, number 889, who is another rider, unfortunately, that's not identifiable by the race programme, but it's still Harry Stitt, number 111, your race leader on the BSA. And I can imagine that this will be another one of the bikes that Harry built himself. He specialises in building these frames for these old classic bikes, and all the frames that Harry builds are all bespoke one-off chassis, so he's a very talented engineer, and as you can see, he's quite handy on a motorbike as well. Number 322 there, that looks like Philip Malcolmson. It looks like Philip's riding an old YZ Yamaha machine. And so as the riders make their way to cross the finish line, it's a win for number 111. That's Harry Stitt. Okay, next up we're on to I think this is the pre-1977 and pre-1970s class. So we've got a combination of old vintage bikes and the pre-77 bikes in this race, and it looks like an excellent start by I think that's Harry Stitt riding this time the Cecil Pearson Jap Rickman. So as they come towards us, it is indeed Harry Stitt, number 111, your race leader. It looks like Lee Rook is in second position. Trevor Calderwood is in third there, number 32. Adrian Lappin, number 44 there, is also riding one of Cecil Pearson's Rickman Jap race bikes. Number 115 is Gary Smith. James Thompson looks like he's had a really bad start at this race, but look out for this man here, James Thompson. Although he's riding at number 33 in this race, it is definitely James Thompson on the bike. Looks like Trevor Calderwood is heading for a DNF and making his way back to the paddock. Some mechanical issues there. Although as they start lap 2, it's still at number 111, Harry Stitt, on one of Cecil Pearson's Jap machines. Now Cecil has 6 of these bikes racing here at Craigantlet, and Cecil has a team of riders that he puts on these bikes, and when you consider that these bikes are 1930s engines inside a set of 1960s scrambles frames, then it gives you an idea just how competitive these bikes are still on the track in this modern day. So it's Harry Stitt on the Cecil Pearson Jap machine, heads up the hill. At number 100, Ian Robertson on the TT500 is doing very well on the big 4-stroker machine. Looks like that could be Craig McCoo out this time on the gold Greaves Griffin, another very rare scrambles machine. And number 303 there, that looks like Ryan McMaster riding one of those quite rare CZ side pipers. Beautiful little bikes these, and as you can see, very quick at these vintage scrambles race events. So there is James Thompson already starting to carve his way through the pack and has already moved up to second position and is chasing Harry Stitt for that first place position. Remember, James was more or less left at the start of this race, but he's carved his way through the pack and is now in second position. Now I think that could be our third place position rider. It looks like Craig McCoo. Gary Smith is just behind him, number 115 on the AMD CZ machine, and just behind Gary Smith we have this man here, Ian Robertson, flying up the hill on that 4-stroke Yamaha. But it looks like James Thompson is now your new race leader. James, of course, was left at the start of this race, but he's carved his way right through the pack on this Cecil Pearson Jap machine, the 1930s Jap engine with the Rickman Matisse chassis, and you can just see how quick these bikes are as they head up the hill. And as you can see, the weather is certainly improving since about 3 races ago, since we had that horrendous downpour. And we're looking at another one of Cecil Pearson's Jap machines, number 66 there. I'm not sure who that is it's riding that particular bike, but it's another one of Cecil's machines. Number 63 there, that's Fraser Dykes riding his BSA. Fraser, of course, the owner and operator of AMD Contract Services. And it's thanks to the landowner, who just in fact happens to be Cecil Pearson, for the use of this fantastic facility here at Craigantlet. Ian Robertson just going through there on his Yamaha machine. And so as the riders head towards the finish line, it's going to be a win for James Thompson, with Harry Stitt in second position. Okay, next up we're going to take in one of the twin shock classes. I think this is the grade D class as they leave the line and head up the hill. A nice collection of old classics in this race, YZ Yamahas and Bultacos and Husqvarnas in this race, so a nice collection of old vintage machines. Looks like Gary Bishop has made a good start there in second place on the what looks like a 78 or 79 Maiko. You may remember the horrendous crash that I filmed at one of the Northern Ireland events in Ballyblack a few years ago, and this was Gary on this particular bike who made that horrendous crash that was eventually aired on American TV. So Gary always puts that up there with his claim to fame. And in fact, when I met up with Gary about a year later, he said, thanks very much for filming my incident, which I thought was very strange. Why would you thank somebody for filming what was nearly a fatal accident? But as you can see, Gary is back up to speed once again, and he's absolutely flying around this Craigantlet racetrack on his old 1970s Maiko. So your race leader is still at number 82, that's Gary Bishop. His Maiko always looks to me like the front end on that bike is just way too soft. Always seems to be like it's bottoming out at every turn, but maybe that's just the way Gary has his bike set up. Maybe that's the way he likes to ride his bike. So that's number 82 there, your race leader, Gary Bishop, a local hero here in Craigantlet in Northern Ireland. And of course we're just hoping and praying that we can get some more racing here in Northern Ireland in 2021, because I didn't attend any events at all in 2020 because of the dreaded COVID. So hopefully we'll maybe get a trip back to Northern Ireland this year, because as you're all aware, the entire 2 days of this classic racing event at Craigantlet was firstly, of course, to have fun riding your old dirt bikes, and secondly, and more importantly, it was to help raise funds for the Northern Ireland Cancer Focus charity, and every single penny and all the proceeds, including all the entry fees, were all donated to that charity. So it's still Northern Ireland's Evel Knievel, Gary Bishop, who is your race leader. I'm sure Gary will love me for calling him that, but if you ever get a chance to have a look at the crash that Gary had at Ballyblack, then just search for it on my YouTube channel. Now I think the second place man there is number 417. I think that's Ivan Cairns, who's in second position on that YZ Yamaha bike. But of course, in the months and years to come, if the travel plans do improve, then why not nip over to Northern Ireland and take in one or two of their classic scrambles events, because these guys will certainly give you a very warm welcome when you turn up. So as our race leader heads up the hill to cross the line to begin another lap, it's still number 82. It's Gary Bishop. In fact, I think this is still the very same bike that Gary took his tumble on at Ballyblack. So hopefully Gary's got the bike straightened out since since he took that little spill. So there's your second place man. I think it's still Ivan Cairns, number 417. Number 88 is third on the CCM. Unfortunately, I don't know who that is. It's not listed in the race programme. And number 73 there, another rider that I can't identify, but looks like he's riding a very nice 250 CZ machine. And just behind him there, I think that's number 20, that's Lee Rook, also riding an old CZ. Looks like Lee has taken that track position from number 73. But Gary Bishop's made a good race of this. He was about second or third off the line at the start, and took the early lead in about the first 2 or 3 turns, and has never really looked back. So it looks like Gary Bishop has got this race quite easily in the bag. But many of these riders would have just entered to race at this event on the day, so their names and numbers wouldn't be listed in the racing programme that was printed for the weekend. So apologies if I'm unable to identify some of those riders. But here's your winner as he comes up to take the checkered flag. It's number 82. It's a win for Gary Bishop. Okay, we're going to finish off this video clip with a look at the Grade A twin shock riders. Now these are the big boys of the twin shock class, so look out for some fantastic racing from this set of riders. So as they head up the hill, looks like Willie Burgess has got the whole shot on the Maiko. Second, it looks like James Thompson, who is this time riding a YZ 490 Yamaha. So it's James Thompson, your race leader, from number 2, Willie Burgess on that flying 81 490 Maiko. Some very quick riders in this twin shock Grade A class. But it's such a beautiful part of the country to sit and watch this type of old vintage twin shock racing here at Craigantlet, as the rest of the riders make their way down the step to the bottom section of the racetrack. So as they head up the hill to complete lap 1, it's James Thompson on the YZ490 Yamaha leads Willie Burgess number 2 there on the 81-490 Michael. Two very talented Irish riders, these two. Willie Burgess, of course, rides in the British Evolution Championships as well, and in between times races this very quick 81-490 Michael, but a good battle developing between these very talented riders. And so as both riders head towards the step down, it's James Thompson, your race leader. Right behind James Thompson is Willie Burgess, number 2, as they head towards the step. Oh, it looks like Willie Burgess has pulled that front brake just a little bit too hard and has hit the deck, but it appears to be okay as he gets that Michael lifted, and hopefully Willie will get that bike fired up and get back into the track. So it's number 26, James Thompson, comes round to complete lap 2. And as I mentioned previously, a very talented rider, this James Thompson. He's already been riding 3 bikes that we've seen in this particular clip: the Bultaco, the Rickman Jap, and of course this YZ490 Yamaha. So he's certainly no slouch on these bikes. There's Trevor Calderwood, number 32. Trevor is out this time on the Monda. That's the Michael frame with the Honda 500 engine in the chassis. There's Willie Burgess back up and running and starting to carve his way through that race pack. But the track conditions getting better at every turn as the dust begins to fly here at Craigantlet. So here's your race leader as he crosses the line for yet another lap. It's James Thompson on the YZ490 Yamaha. Looks like James has got a decent lead on the second place man, which we'll try and pick up in just a minute. But James is absolutely flying on this YZ490. These are very quick bikes and perfectly suited for a man of James Thompson's talents. Number 83 is in second position, but not listed in the race programme. That looks like Gary Bishop is back out again, and Gary Bishop is in third position, but we're looking at the 4th place rider, Trevor Calderwood, on that very quick Monda race machine. There's Willie Burgess still carving his way through the race pack after his slight off-track excursion at the steps. I'm sure Willie won't make that same mistake again. And so as our race leader comes round to begin his last and final lap of this Twin Shock Grade A-Class race, it's still the flying YZ490 of James Thompson. And it also looks like it's Gary Bishop who's going to be heading towards that second place overall. And here we have the man, number 78, Gary Bishop, on that what looks like a 79 Michael. Very quick bike and a very quick rider. Number 2 there, Willie Burgess, has made his way up to third position from that bad fall he had in the first lap, but nevertheless a good result from Willie. Although it's another well-deserved win for James Thompson on the YZ490. Well, I do hope you enjoyed those few select races from that 2-day charity scramble event that was held in Northern Ireland in 2018, and the Northern Ireland Classic Motorcycle Racing Club did raise a substantial amount of money for the Cancer Focus charity during that 2-day event, so well done to them. So coming up in my next video, I've been raiding my video archives again, and we'll be taking a look at more of those fantastic paddock bikes that I know you love to take a look at. And included in that next clip, we'll be taking a look at Brian Hamilton's RM500 Evolution Suzuki. And also included in this next clip, we'll be taking a look at Gordon Watson's lovely BSA Victor. So I hope you'll rejoin me to take a look at that. So until next time, stay safe and well until we all speak once more on your favourite vintage motocross channel right here on Classic Dirt Bike TV.